Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back for another episode of Full Steam Ahead. Today we have a very special guest. We've got something a little bit outside the box, but I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what she has to offer. Uh, as always, let's go on ahead and welcome our guest, Brianna Cook, Chef Brianna Cook at that.
Hey, thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you doing today?
Amazing. It was a wonderful day. Wednesdays are usually my days off, so I took care of some prep for the weekend events. Valentine's Day is coming up and also some other
Okay.
events this weekend. So, just errands, getting things ready. It was a pretty good day. It was beautiful outside, so I enjoyed it.
It is definitely beautiful outside. I really hate that I couldn't have been outside a little bit more. And it's also beautiful because it's Black History Month, and so we're really excited to have you on here because you have your own business, Black-owned business. We're supporting Black-owned businesses all month, all year, all decade, all century. But something else I did want to shout out is the shirt that I have on right now. It says "A Mother's Love Never Changes," and it's by Mama Africa's Apparel. Shout out to my boy Manny up in Dallas that makes these shirts. He does urban attire, but then also does traditional African cloth. So you definitely want to check him out and get in touch with him to get up on your apparel. So before we hop into things, before we get into the good stuff, the lessons in the trap, nature versus nurture, and blowing off some steam, I have to introduce our guest. So that's what I'm about to do right now. So let's see. All right. Brianna's lifelong dream has been to own a restaurant. Brianna dreamed of attending culinary school, but was encouraged by her father to seek a business degree to understand how to make a business profitable. Brianna attended Purdue University on an academic scholarship through the Business Opportunity Program, BOP, and obtained a degree in finance and an entrepreneurship minor. She graduated May 2014. Brianna moved back to Houston, Texas after college and joined Shell Oil Company's graduate rotational program. She worked in corporate for 5 years and then took a leap of faith to pursue full-time entrepreneurship. She founded Pepper Mint Catering in 2019, named after her love for fresh herbs and seasonings. In her first year of business, despite a global pandemic, Brianna was blessed to experience a multitude of opportunities. She was a full-time private chef for a family, catered 3 weddings, hired by a Billboard Hot 100 R&B artist to cater his team at a sold-out concert, hired by a professional NBA team to cater a pre- and post-game meal. That's a lot. Services/prep for a variety of people, cater a host of corporate events, and cook for more than 200 plus families' special occasions. Man, you got it going on.
Thank you.
She believes that God gives everybody with a specific purpose to fulfill. She believes love, passion, and a solid vision with a strong work ethic and the desire to constantly learn and adapt will build a foundation to be successful. She hopes to be an example for people to pursue their dreams despite adversity. With no further ado, please welcome Brianna Cook.
Yay!
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Man, you have one hell of a bio. I really like the fact that your dad told you to go to business school,
Mm-hmm.
and to lead that to assist you with your dreams. But before I dive too deep, let's go on ahead and kick off our LITT segment, which stands for Lessons in the Trap. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna let you go first
Okay.
with your song. Tell us what song motivates you, or just you just want it. You just been listening to it a lot, or maybe you just like hearing it every now and then.
I feel like my song is a little cliche, especially because of how we in the community, I guess, idolize Nipsey. But my favorite song of Nipsey's is Double Up. That's my song. I feel like, separate from the lyrics, it gives me
Hmm.
the like I guess like the power, like the motivation to just keep going. I listen to it before every event. I listen to it while I'm like loading the car. It just kind of gets me through and in that spirit of like, okay, I gotta grind, I gotta make it work, I gotta like do better, I gotta be better. Every single event.
Right.
Like I feel like it's one of those songs that even if you listen to it multiple times, you may be thinking something differently. You may be in a different experience. And it's just kind of that constant, like, all right, like, I'm ready to grind. Let's do this. Like, I'm excited and let's go.
Right. Okay. That's the one with Belly is on there.
Yeah.
Is on there, right?
And it just
Yeah.
has such a
So
like catchy melody.
it does, and it's interesting because it's kind of like a slow, but like, and I really I like the music video. It's a long music video, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because his well, she was his fiance. Lauren London was in the video, but they were playing like opposites in a sense, So
I,
I like watching. Go
oh
ahead.
no, I'm sorry.
I was just saying I like sometimes watching music videos
Mm-hmm.
makes me like songs more sometimes. I'm weird like that, but
I'm glad you mentioned Lauren because I really feel like partnership in general is important to me. I'm sure we'll kind of get into
Mhm.
it when we talk about my business, but I feel like you could do like it's better together. Like you can do more with another person
Right.
or like somebody to kind of help you elevate. And that's one of the reasons why I love that song. It's like we're getting this together.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I didn't even think about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna jump into mine. This song dropped about 2.5 weeks ago, and it's been on replay in my car. I'm a huge J. Cole fan. This isn't it's not his song. He's featured on it,
Okay.
but you like J.
I
Cole?
do like J. Cole. He came to my university
Hmm.
years ago. And it was
Okay.
amazing. I love J. Cole.
Yeah, he came to A&T a few times also. I've seen him in a concert a lot, but I'm a huge J. Cole fan. So, Benny the Butcher has a song called Johnny P's Caddy, and just the way he put those bars together in that song. I wish I could spit the whole verse, but I'm not. I'm just gonna spit like
Try.
6 lines. But I think that to me it relates to STEM. Some of the references were like STEM related, and I was like, oh, this is dope. So I'm gonna go ahead, y'all. I'm not a rapper, so don't judge me if if I'm not putting all the rhymes together. I don't sound like him. Don't judge me too much. All right, so he says, and this is like in one of the middle of the verses. He says, "I'm higher than dudes and don't need a bag full of reefer. Some see the glass as empty. I see a glass full of ether. Collecting his bread in mass like he a Catholic preacher. Just to count a dude's cash, you might need a calculus teacher. Eureka, Einstein on the brink of the theory of relativity. Really, no MC equals. Feel me? Yeah, that would have sounded a lot better if
You did
we could play
pretty
the
good.
actual
I was
song.
feeling it.
So the reason why I picked that part is because there's so much to me, and this is a nerd moment or whatever you want to call it, but there's so much that revolves around like science, right? So, and then just some of the like entendres and things like that. So like ether, I didn't know this. Ether is a class of organic compounds where like two oxygen atoms bond together with the alkali group, and I didn't realize in the 19th century it was used to help with some science of, and I'm having to read this because I couldn't remember all this off the top of my head. But then the triple entendre comes in when he starts talking about the Catholic Church and Mass. So he says like, so one, he's like donations in Catholic Church are basically like during their main service, which is called Mass, and then that's the second one. Then the third one, it's a play on words. The sacramental bread is taken in the main service, which is Mass. But then also, if you say in Mass, that's a French phrase, which means a lot. He was talking about his money, so he could have also been saying he has a lot of money as well. But then he jumps back into the science side of it when he mentions Einstein's theory of relativity, because E equals mc squared, and he says that he says no MC equals me. like the MC from the equation. I just thought that was dope.
I would never have got that, but I'm glad you broke it down. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I just rock with it. So that's my lessons in the trap. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. I kind of want to see kind of like where your head is on a few things. We call this nature versus nurture.
Okay.
And in the nature versus nurture segment, this is where we get your opinion. We see basically what your preferences are on certain things. And since you're a chef, we got some special.
Oh, I'm excited.
Kind of in the mix for you.
Okay.
So, all right, let's start with the first one, and I'll answer these two.
Okay.
I actually haven't really thought about it that much, but do you prefer cake, cobbler, or pie?
Ooh, cake, cobbler, or pie? I'm gonna go with cobbler. I love cobbler because of the buttery like texture on top, and then you get like the ooey gooey goodness in the bottom. I feel like cobbler is perfect, like that kind of contrast and texture. And then you can put all kinds of things on cobbler. I love personally ice cream. I'm gonna go with cobbler.
Okay.
What about you?
Okay. So I don't even know if I really know the definition of cobbler. I was looking for words, and then so you said it's gooey, kind of.
Yeah, cobbler is kind of like, it's like the consistency. It's like more kind of syrupy base. It's usually some sort of like compote of fruits. But
so like peach cobbler.
Right.
Okay.
And like
so can cobbler have crust?
Usually on top of cobbler there's a crust. On the bottom there's not, at least as far as I know, there's no crust on the bottom of cobbler. So I guess that's the difference between cobbler and pie. So pie has like the bottom crust, the top crust, and it's usually like a little bit thicker. And then the cobbler I would say it's like more like runny. So you would need like a bowl for a cobbler versus a pie. You could just like cut a slice and put it on a plate and it wouldn't like move.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I think for me, I'll go with cake.
Okay. What kind of cake?
I'll go with cake. Man, so it's either cheesecake or chocolate cake.
Okay.
Or chocolate cheesecake.
That's pretty good. I like cheesecake like too.
That. Okay. Yeah. I like pie too. I like pies and cobblers, but I think I just like stuff that's solid more. So, yeah. Okay, so number 2. If you had to choose, do you prefer to cook on stainless steel or non-stick cookware?
Stainless steel or non-stick? It depends on what I'm cooking. I will say my go-to is for sure cast iron. I love cast iron. I can pretty much bake in a cast iron. Cornbread's amazing in a cast iron. I know that's not necessarily an option, but especially if I'm at someone's house, I probably wouldn't go for a stainless steel just because I'm doing the dishes and I'm usually making multiple things in that one pot, which requires me to be moving quickly, not able to like wash in between. So if I had to pick between those two, I would say non-stick, but my favorite would be cast iron.
Okay, gotcha. Funny cast iron. Funny story with me. I washed out. I was washing the cast iron skillet, and I couldn't get something out. So I didn't know this. I used a Brillo pad to get it out because it was in there kind of hard, and that's what I'm used to, doing. And then it started rusting like the next day, and then I started Googling stuff, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like I think I posted on Instagram. I was like, oh, I accidentally cleaned the people were in my DMs.
I already know,
like, bruh, like, what are you doing? Like, and I was like, I didn't know.
Did you use soap too?
Did I soak it?
Did you use soap? Like, did you put like dish soap too?
Yes.
So you committed 2 crimes.
Ooh. So yeah, so you're supposed to clean a cast iron skillet with just like
hot water, pretty much.
Yeah, and then just kind of to make sure it dries out, you can put it in the oven, on like 250 or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a few minutes. So I did that, and then I was able to get the rust out, so it's good now.
Good. Now you know.
I corrected my mistake.
Hey, you got to learn those lessons. I've definitely had of my fair share.
Yep. Okay, so this one might be a little different, and it might be kind of hard because they kind of seem like the same thing, but I guess they're not really.
Okay.
Spices or herbs?
Oh, why would you do that to me? They're both super important. Spices or herbs?
I thought about, the name of your business, and so.
I'm gonna go with spices. The reason why I picked spices is because although herbs, in my opinion, are very important to like a flavor profile of a dish, I don't necessarily think that an herb alone will get you to where you want to be. So if I had to go with one or the other, spices most people are used to. I mean, if you don't even use salt, people are like, what is this?
True.
So I'd say spices. A lot of them. Okay. I'm very heavy on the spice.
Okay. I'll go with spices also.
What's your favorite herb?
My favorite herb? Probably thyme.
Oh, okay.
Thyme, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this. There's the one that's rosemary. I like rosemary also, but I like putting thyme on my salmon. I make it.
That sounds amazing.
Somebody give me for that. Yeah. Yeah. So that, and I'll if I like trying to get better at blackening salmon. So I like doing that when I put in the cast iron skillet
with some butter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You got it.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's move into our boss segment, which stands for blowing off some steam. And this is where you can just talk about anything that's kind of annoying you. If there's nothing that's bothering you at this moment, or nothing on the news getting on your nerves, nothing at work, no customers or anything irritating you, you can just say, "I don't have no worries."
Oh, I got some worries.
Okay. Go ahead. You can go first.
Okay, so today I was in Home Goods. No, let me start from the beginning of my day. I had to ship something at FedEx, and it was a rug, and I came in there without the rug being wrapped. And I know that from before that I had to wrap it, but I was just hoping that they would direct me to how best to wrap it, if I should fold it in half, whatever. So there's literally no one in the store. They have 7 people behind the counter, and every single one of them is just watching me wrap this rug incorrectly. So about 15 minutes goes by. I'm like, can someone please help me? And they're just literally standing there, and no one comes to help me. And I would say I'm really big on service. Obviously, that's pretty much my profession, but just in general, I feel like if you're in a service industry, if you're able to help or at least provide some direction, why would you not? At least, I'm not even asking you to go above and beyond to actually wrap it for me, which would have been amazing. But why, none of y'all decided to save some time for me, or some effort, or some frustration. So that was my
why not jump
in? Right? Why not? Just be kind.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So you said you were trying to wrap the rug.
Yeah.
How tall was it?
I want to say it was maybe a 10-foot by 8. It was a pretty big rug as far as lengthwise, but it was pretty thin, so it could have been folded in half. I kind of smashed it up. You could have rolled it on a couple of sides. I really wasn't too sure, but I just found it frustrating that no one offered to help.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. Sometimes people can tell that you're either lost or you can't figure something out. I know when I go in stores like that, I'd be lost. I'd be I don't know. I'd be looking for flowers on one side, and I go to and then I'll be looking at flowers in the hardware section or something like that. I just be all over the place. So it is always helpful when somebody can jump in and be like, "Oh, okay, do you need some help with something?" Instead of just doing the bare minimum. Yes, you are at work. We appreciate you being at work, but while you're at work, be helpful at the same time. So, yeah, I definitely feel that.
What about yours?
Okay. Me, so I feel some type of way about these kids getting out of school for inclement weather that's not even inclement. Like last week, it was there was supposed to be a snowstorm, and I guess everybody was like, "Oh man, let's the freeze," right? Yeah. So everybody's doesn't want what happened last February, that the winter storm, pipes bursting and stuff like that. So everybody prepared. And I'm not gonna lie, like I went outside, I wrapped my pipes and stuff like that, made sure everything was winterized and good. But I don't know. I feel like when I was younger, like even though I grew up in Atlanta, most times like we were going to school. There was a few times when like it was like, okay, y'all could have went to school, but it was at least ice on the ground. Something, it was clear as day. Last Friday.
It's interesting.
And Saturday was fine.
Yeah, it ended up being a pretty beautiful day.
Yeah, it did.
It
was just chilly.
It was chilly. When I was in Indiana for school, they were like, I would be literally praying for class to be canceled, and class was never canceled. In my 4 years there, we might have had like a handful of days, but it might be like negative 10 wind chill, like 10 inches of snow. You're trekking to go to class.
Wow. Yeah, I was not that far north. in North Carolina, it snowed sometimes, and then in Arkansas, we definitely got snow for like 2 weeks straight. And I remember there being like a good bit of days where it was like class canceled, and it was like went into the weekend, so it was like okay, cool. And then like Monday and Tuesday we ended up being off, and it was cool. But yeah, it's so since I've been through stuff like that in Arkansas and Oklahoma, when I come down now that I'm here, it's like there's not real winter,
right? What the heck?
Yeah, like what are y'all doing? But
better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry. Safety first.
This is true. So, okay. All right. That will wrap up our blowing off some steam segment. Let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. Let's go ahead and talk to you about your business, some of the things, that you do now, that you've done in the past. But I guess, I kind of want to know, your degree is not in STEM, not in STEAM, but I know that you have a lot of friends, a lot of people that you know that are in these fields, and you worked at Shell, which is definitely heavy, like heavy STEM. They're big in industry. They hire pretty much everybody: chemists, engineers, IT folks, a little bit of everybody. So tell me what your experience was like at Shell, and what group or department did you work with?
Okay, so I was really blessed to be in a rotational program at Shell. So it's basically 3 years. You do 2 different business groups. Since I was a business major, it was all downstream. So my first kind of rotation was in lubricants, which most people are familiar with, like Pennzoil or Quaker State. And my, I guess, job responsibilities were more so geared towards marketing. I had an amazing time. It was very travel heavy, very sort of like customer focused, a lot of entertaining. The second rotation was in the trading group. So there was a trade floor. I specifically was in the shipping and maritime department. And it was more like logistics focused, a little bit of operations. And then my last sort of stint at Shell was in chemicals. I was in sales, and I also was like my team's analyst. So those 3 experiences were much different, very, very different from each other. And I would say, though I did not study any sort of STEM fields, I was mostly with mathematicians or chemists, largely in my last group. So I do have an understanding of things, and it's somewhat related to what I do now. I would say, kind of the infusion of like dynamics and intriguing flavors of the food, and allowing like the engineering as it's cooking to affect how it all works together. So I guess like in layman's terms, like if you add sugar and salt, or like a spice and a sugar, or a spice and an herb. That to me is chemistry.
Right. Definitely is. You know, I definitely be in the kitchen feeling like I'm,
whipping it up.
I'm in the lab. I'm whipping it up. Like, you know, me, I'm feeling like a big boss if I can, if the recipe says, oh, you need this many, fluid ounces, and I'm like, oh man, let me go ahead and convert that to cups. You know, I'm pulling out my phone, using calculator and all this other stuff, writing stuff down, converting fractions to decimals. You know, I'm out here feeling like I'm putting in work. The thing about me is though, I can do all that and convert everything, and then it still take me, 3 hours to cook. A meal in two sides.
I can't lie.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I can't lie. Like fractions, like I'll be asking Alexa with the quickness, like, Alexa, how many ounces or this, or how many liters and like gallons? Like I mean, it's not my strong suit, but if I was in STEM, that would come like more second nature. Of course, there's art intertwined with the chemistry of cooking. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I feel like it's senses based. So like I can smell the food, I can taste it, I can touch it, I can see it, and all of those things work together to make like the perfect infusion of flavors.
So how would you say you most use STEM kind of like, like each day? Like I know you said you're pairing spices with herbs, and you're trying to, you're doing different things. I don't know the technical terms, but how would you say you use it most on a daily basis?
How would I use it most?
Is it just strictly, pretty much from the standpoint of, you're taking flour, butter, eggs, different things, and mixing together? Because some of us don't know. I don't always know why certain things happen. I'm just like, all right, yeah, they're telling me to put this in here, but I don't really think about like the science behind it. Like, yeah, if you mix baking soda and water, like I think the most basic thing people know is that oil and water don't mix, right? And I learned that the hard way one time. Somebody was at my house cooking, and I didn't dry the pan out all the way, and still had water in it, and they put oil in it, and then we walked away for maybe like 5-10 minutes. It got hot, and then we just heard this big pop noise. Go back in, the water done knocked the oil out the pan. It done went everywhere in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh!
So that's chemistry to me, but
right. So for me, I would say STEM is more so like a corrective thing. So the way that I cook is really just to start. Like I don't look at recipes. I don't know quite what I'm doing most of the time in the beginning, especially if I'm kind of just playing around with some flavors. And then I will kind of see a reaction, and then I'll need to correct it. So if anything, it would be, okay, let me use some logic into why is my, let's say cornbread, like why is the top of my cornbread burning and then the bottom is still like uncooked? Well, that means that I need to lower the temperature. Maybe I need to cover it, or maybe I need to insulate it. So I would say that, but in general, I'm more of an experimental chef. So I don't really think about things 100%. I just like get in and do it. And then the thoughts come after. So I know that some chefs prefer to, I guess like articulate every single thing and write it down and have all the ingredients and do that. But my personal style is to just get in there, start doing it, and then kind of see what happens.
Okay, I got you. So dive in a little more and tell us more about your business. Anything you want to share and put out there so that the people know.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to say. So I have a couple of, I guess, like branches of my business. So I am a private chef, but I do mostly catering. So the business is seasonal. So the catering aspect is what I enjoy from a creative standpoint the most. So catering would be from a 10-person brunch to a wedding of 200 people, or somewhere in between, maybe a dinner party or a corporate event or a holiday party. That's kind of, I would say, like my bread and butter. And then I do have separate like family meal services, which is where I find like the fulfillment of the business. So like that's where I feel like my purpose is. So I'm actually helping these families, these working moms or these single dads or these kids get the nutrients that they need, and to be able to focus, and hearing the feedback on how it's like important in their lives is really what drives me. So I'm always available,
Okay.
of course, for catering services, but meal services is where I would say I do make the most impact day to day with my clients. And then I will be expanding into cooking classes. So I'm working on a program. I would like to start with kids. I would like for it to really be kind of like integrated in their day to day. So maybe a 4-week program, 6-week, 8-week. I'm not really exactly sure how it'll look, but I really want to teach these kids kind of at a young age how to be like self-sustainable and how to do nutrients or how to budget and how I guess like food is important to your overall mental well-being. So I would like to kind of work with the kids to do that first and then branch out to like bachelor parties or girls' nights or date nights and things like that for cooking classes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What would you say is your most ordered or most requested dish?
It depends on the service. So I would say if I had to answer the question with no sort of like caveats, I would say shrimp and grits.
Okay.
And during quarantine, I was making fried chicken like every 3 days. I did not know so many people like fried chicken, but they said it was good. So I started making literally like the batter like by the gallon. So shrimp and grits for sure.
Wow.
I have a Cajun and soul food menu. So the comfort foods are very popular. People have said that my smoked turkey collard greens is literally the best they ever had. I even had a grandma come up to me like, girl, you bought these. Like, there's no way that you made them. Who taught you how to make greens? And to be honest with you, I didn't. The first time that I made them was for an event. And I called my friend and he was like, let me ask my grandma. And his grandma's on the phone talking about baking soda and vinegar and this and the process and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, you are godsend because these greens are amazing.
Okay. So she helped you out. She did. Gave you some tips and you just took it from there.
I did.
Okay. I got you. And so are you still like in your bio you had that you did a concert, you were hired by NBA team. Are you still doing stuff with the NBA team?
No, it was just a one-time thing.
Okay.
I personally, I guess so I'm only in my 3rd year of business. So the first year was COVID and the second year was still semi-COVID 2021. So I'm still, for the most part, kind of figuring out my niche. I really do love everyday families. So there's a lot that kind of goes on with the more, I guess, institutions or even corporations. There's all these kind of extra things that have to be considered when doing them. So I'm open to it, but my personal favorite is literally some person that said, my cousin, my coworker, my best friend hired you and I'd like to do this and go from there.
Okay. So like references.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So it's only your 3rd year in business. So you've been you've been away from Shell for close to 3 years, is that correct?
Maybe like three and a half. So I left in 2019, May 2019. So I traveled for a couple of months. I'd say I really got going January 2020.
January 2020. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Got you. So was there anything in particular about corporate America that made you fed up and it was just like, I'm over this, I gotta go, I'm out, like
yes.
Did you not like it, or was it truly just like, I'm going to pursue my dream?
No, not really. So I thought, my I guess my example, my father has been in business, like corporate, his entire life. I thought I would be the 9-to-5er, like I'd climb the ladder, like I'd be like a VP. Like I kind of, although my dream had always been to own a restaurant, I really thought that I would do that on the side or kind of later on in life, and I would do the corporate thing. But I quickly realized and even in my first job, that there's so many like hurdles to overcome that before you even get to your day-to-day job. So my first job, it was for sure discriminate in all of the jobs. There's actually lawsuits going on in all of my teams, which is an interesting sort of thing to navigate as a recent grad. 21 years old, kind of like young, ambitious, and, you know, like full of energy. So it was the fact that I feel like, okay, maybe being a woman isn't a problem, but me being the youngest on the team is a problem. Or maybe the fact that I don't know chemistry isn't a problem, but the fact that I am Black is a problem. So it was tough to navigate. I feel like I never really was valued in the same way as my other coworkers were. I didn't get the praise. I didn't get, I guess, like not necessarily accolades, but like I didn't get the credit if I were working on something. But if it was vice versa, if I was working on something and my coworkers assisted literally with one question, oh, we're a team and I did this and I helped this and so on and so forth. So I found that my personality didn't necessarily fit. And I'm a big believer in God, and I believe like He speaks loudest when you most need it. And in my last job, we were having some issues. My job was going away, so the specific like team or my product line in chemicals was going to be like sold off. Right. So we were all kind of scrambling to find what our next move was, and there's a lot of sort of like team issues. So there was a consultant that came in. And I remember she looked dead at me and she was like, "Hey, Brianna, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." She's like, "Outside." And I'm like, "Oh shoot, like what did I do?" So she had this whole chart of like, I guess where you're supposed to be, how organizations work well. She like had outliers, and then there was like me like way over here, and then like this is the team. And she's like, do you feel valued? Do you feel like respected? Do you feel motivated? And I was like, no, honestly, I don't. And she was like, I think that you should consider a different career. And at first I felt like a failure because that really is how, you know, I put all of this like energy into working there and, you know, being successful and getting good performance evaluations and that thing. But for someone who has known me for 5 seconds and said, "Hey, I think you should, you know, pursue something else," it was like a blessing in disguise for sure. And sure enough, I would say 8 months later, I was gone. And I wish I could thank her. I really do, because she was the first kind of like light bulb that went off, like, hey, maybe I should consider something else.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. You know, God sends angels.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. I've definitely had an experience where I felt like the team was over here and I was like way over here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's nobody likes to feel like that, but you know, we all have growing pains. We have things we go through that basically spur us on to do our next, you know, big
Absolutely.
thing, next thing that
mm-hmm.
you know, that's part of our path. So I'm glad you were able to, you know, kind of take that advice.
Me too.
Or take
now it wasn't all peachy, I will say. So I had a wedding to go to, and my manager and we did definitely have some issues going on between the two of us and also the rest of the team and the manager. And he was like, "You're not going on vacation." And I said, "Wait a second, like I'm entitled to this. I booked the trip. I'm literally going to Australia." And he was like, "Well, I can't guarantee you a job when you get back." And I said, "Okay, well, it was important for me to show up for my friend." I went to Australia. I had in Japan and Korea, it was my first solo trip. I ate all the food. I did cooking classes. Like, it was really kind of my exploration to see if I wanted to pursue culinary arts. And on the plane ride back, I couldn't go to sleep. It was 16 hours. I'm just like looking around, like, what am I going to do? I can't go back to work. And sure enough, I had a message from my manager that said, "Oh, Brianna, your employment has been like severed. You have 45 days. Like, see you when you get back." Dang. And I was like, wow, I thought it was going to be a transition, but no, here I am. And 45 days later, entrepreneur full time.
Blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. I mean, I don't know. It's like, how you just not expect somebody to go on vacation, especially if you've given them enough, you know, forewarning. You've told them, "Hey, like I put in my PTO well in advance," you know.
I don't know. It was a lot going on.
I feel you. Yeah, I haven't had that sort of issue with like PTO or traveling or anything, but I definitely had like issues with a project manager, supervisor, stuff like that, and not necessarily from the standpoint like we were getting into it or anything, but it didn't feel like a team.
Right.
You know, it just felt like it just felt like y'all are looking down on me because I'm new and I'm still trying to get the feel of things because I'm in a brand new industry.
Right.
But it is what it is. I definitely can empathize with what you're saying. So, in terms of that, you spoke about being black in corporate America and stuff like that. So, what is it like being a black chef in your industry, in the cooking industry or catering industry, should I say?
So I have so I guess I can answer in two parts. So I'll answer in a positive way first. So I feel like being a black chef and also being a woman, being new, kind of people hearing my story, I get a lot of, not necessarily praise, I get a lot of room to be great. So people want to support me because they see, oh, you're authentic, you're courageous, you're God-centered. I want to support a black business. So I feel like it has benefited me a lot even before they try my food. Now, granted, on the opposite spectrum, there are some people who are ignorant and see that I am fair-skinned, or I maybe know that I'm biracial and say, oh, like, you are an exception because you look this way, but the rest of your team, like, I don't know what your staff is doing here. I don't know why, whatever your sous chef or your assistant or who are these people who you're bringing. So that was kind of a point.
This happened to you before?
Definitely. No one has necessarily been asked to leave, but I can tell, like, now they're like moving all of their purses to one side of the room, or they're having to walk someone out versus before I could just come and go in and out the house. Like it's little things that you notice, like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't realize that this was going to be an issue. But some people are surprised. Like, I'm only hiring black people. I show up with all my people. We're happy. We're ready to go. We're capable. And it's like, oh, this is a Versace plate. Can you wash it a certain kind of way? When before you wouldn't have said that, if you see what I'm saying. But in general, I think that being a black chef has benefited me.
Right.
The only downside would be people would say, oh, do you have any other menus, or are you only soul food? Do you only make fried chicken? And that to me is very offensive, because if I were to classify myself as a chef, I would say, like, my niche is actually fusion food that I take from, like, traveling inspirations and things like that. So for someone to just assume that I can only do a Southern brunch is offensive.
Right. So has someone asked that question after seeing, like, something that you've catered, or is that just like their question right off the top?
Their question right off the top. And in fact, somebody last week had said, oh, I saw you have really good reviews, but I'm wondering if you can do something else. And it took me a while to kind of process what he was specifically talking about, something else. But then I went to the reviews, and you can see that they're all black people who gave me a review. So, granted, he didn't elaborate on what he meant, but it's those sort of things, those comments that you're kind of confused. Like, maybe, can you tell me exactly what you're talking about? Like, because I don't want to, I guess, misconstrue. I don't want to assume. I don't want to treat you a certain kind of way, but not everybody is 100% transparent.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, and it's good to ask those follow-up questions, because you don't, like you said, you don't want to assume that they were trying to be negative or trying to be detrimental, but, it's kind of like, well, why don't you ask me what all I bring to the table, as opposed to asking, can I make something else?
Right. Yeah. In general, though, I feel like the black chef community is very close-knit. There are people I've never met on Instagram, and, I mean, it kind of sucks to say, but I feel like some of them have been more supportive and more, I guess, like, following my journey than some of the people that I went to school with, or some of the people that I had been talking about this 10 years ago. They share my things, they recommend my things, they'll call me and leave me a voicemail, hey, I recommended you for something. So I mean, there are those kind of negative things about being Black and being a chef in Houston specifically, but for the most part, like, the community is so strong and my clients are amazing. And I feel like it's just like a powerful place to be.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely here in Houston, it's tight knit, or at least it seems that way.
Mm-hmm.
So like, a lot of the Black chefs know each other, and like you said, support. So
Yeah.
that's okay, cool. So with that being said, how do you avoid being pigeonholed by the notion that you exclusively make Black food? Like, if somebody does say that, how do you avoid like being pigeonholed? Like getting into that space where it's like how are you able to?
I've learned
Work.
in my like entrepreneurship endeavors at school, as well as I guess mostly marketing. So my internships were in marketing, and then my first kind of stint at Shell was in marketing. So I have definitely been able to kind of sell more things by talking about it. So someone may be like, oh, well, the fried chicken looks really good, or I love shrimp and grits, but we'll just go with that. I'm like, oh, well, I also have this, and I'll show them pictures. I'll explain it in great detail. I'll tell them that this is a featured. I'll tell them this is a chef specialty. I'll kind of use those buzzwords to not necessarily sway them away from, I guess, those sort of dishes, but encourage them to try something else. And sometimes I offer, I'm making it for another client. I'd be happy to bring it by. So I do sort of like try and incorporate some of that, like building rapport with my clients, or I'll send them pictures. Like, I try and do some other, I guess, like marketing related conversations to that. But some people are just like, this is what I want. I don't need to see your menu. This is our favorite, and that's that. And I'm happy to make it.
Yeah. Okay. Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Understood. What are some stereotypes about chefs that you can disprove?
Oh my gosh. So I had like a good bunch kind of thought through, and then I asked a couple of my chef friends, and this like spiraled into this hour-long conversation. So we could probably talk about this for a long time. But I would say number one is maybe that we are all food critics. So I personally love to go out to eat with my family, with my girlfriends, whoever. More so for the experience, like the camaraderie, the fellowship. I just love it. And I'm not necessarily there to say, like, I can do this better, I can do this differently. And I think we all kind of get frustrated in a way that we can't just enjoy a meal like everyone else. It's like, oh, what do you think? And what do you think? And like, if you give a recommendation, like, it's like all praise, like this is the holy grail. So that's one.
Okay.
I would say being, I guess, like in my like age category, there's a lot of people who don't cook, and a lot of people who maybe assume that we have these like 5-star meals just like laying around in our house. So there's kind of a notion like, oh, I'm gonna stop by whatever I saw you posted, and I'm gonna like come get a plate, or like it's just like, no, I don't have just like these meals.
Ah, that's funny.
Laying around.
Right.
That's two.
Yeah.
And then I would say the last thing is like, some people will say like, just kind of speak openly like, oh, this is my favorite, and this is the kind of dish I like, or this is the fruit or the flavor, or this is the style, and maybe assume that we all know exactly what it is. So one girl gave an analogy like, okay, like we may all be doctors, we all kind of know the basics, or we may all be chemists or whatever the case is, but I specialize in heart surgery, you specialize in dental work, and you are a psychologist. We don't all know like 100% what it is. So I found that to be kind of like, oh, that was a great analogy. There's a couple of things that there are stereotypes, but I'd say the one that grinds my gears the most is like the can I come get a plate, or like let me have some leftovers, or like as if food.
Can't believe people do that.
Yeah, like as if food is just free. Like no, and then they don't even offer. They don't offer no kind of coins towards this meal. They're like, no, Bill.
I didn't know people did that.
You'd be surprised.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay. So as we start to wrap up a little bit, who inspires you and why?
Wow, who inspires me?
We know your dad.
Definitely my dad. I guess I've said this a couple of times, but I'm inspired by like everyday people. I just meet so many wonderful families, or I particularly love Black women, and they share their journeys or their struggles and how they got to achieve or where they're at in their life with their kids or whatever. And it just gives me so much like joy to see that so many people have these everyday obstacles that they overcome, and it puts things into perspective for me as a chef and doing something, providing a service in a professional way. So maybe I forgot Schaefer dishes, or maybe I don't have my equipment, but then I think about these people who are like making like something out of nothing. And I just think about these conversations that I have on a daily basis, and like, you know what, we'll figure it out. Or maybe I forgot my batter for the waffles. Well, you have flour and you have this. Or maybe I'll just say, change of plans, we're going to do this. So I mean, everyday people, everyday families, everyday employees. And then of course my peers, they do amazing things that I find to be like motivation for me and my business.
Okay. Understood. With that said, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment since you've been a chef, and what tips do you have for people aspiring to become an executive chef?
Okay, my biggest accomplishment. There's so many, man. I just celebrate every win. Like after every event, I just feel like I'm walking on water. So it's hard to say, but I was at the end of last year reached out to for a couple of shows, and there were some casting agents that just from seeing like me as a person and how I engage on social media or talking to me and hearing the passion that I have for what I do, said, oh, you'd be a great fit. And there's only 12 spots, and we've interviewed 2,000, 10,000 people. I find that to be like amazing. I didn't end up getting casted, but again, like I said, as a believer, my time will come for those sorts of things. So I wouldn't necessarily say like that's something that I did, but to be recognized as a great in this industry is an accomplishment in itself. As far as tips for being an aspiring chef, for me, my journey has definitely been different. I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't really have a mentor. I didn't have anybody in my family who did this. Like I wasn't born into a food industry. I've never served before. So I myself kind of struggled with feeling inadequate, like not knowing, kind of feeling like I had to be perfect. At first, I started pricing like $35 a person, which I was making no money at that point. And so I would say for anybody who wants to do it, to just start. Like you don't have to have your logo. You don't have to have a name. You don't even have to have, your family support you. You can literally just get on an app, say this is what you do, and start there. So, I know that we need to wrap up, so I could talk about that for a while, but mentorship is of course important. So I started with a chef, and I was just chopping vegetables for the most part. He was considered a celebrity chef. I was there. I was, ambitious. I did the unloading. I did the cleaning. I did the part that he didn't want to do. And in that process, I had a greater appreciation for all that is encompassed in an event.
That goes into it. Right. Yeah, you got to trust the process.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And my last question for you, and I think this could even help other people as well, and definitely in the Houston area, what advice or knowledge can you share regarding the Black chef community here in Houston?
What advice? Like to?
Yeah. Either way, to the Black chef community, like things that you may have heard, people that are not chefs, like people like myself, like if there's like, oh, people don't like this, or if it's just not any knowledge that you have about the Black chef community, whether it's coming together more, partnering, stuff like that.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. So I am extremely passionate about partnership. I said kind of like the better together mantra in the beginning. So I would say we all have our strong suits, and then we all have these things that we could work on. And it takes a while to overcome these things you could work on. But I personally feel like if you are an amazing baker, and I don't want to bake, I'm doing all these things. Or if you're an amazing bartender, and I have my PBC license, but I don't want to do that. Or if you have an event planning company, why don't we all infuse our services together? So my hope in the future, I guess maybe 3-5 years, is to have a space where all of these individuals can succeed simultaneously, and it's not a competition. But specifically a Black chef, I don't know. I'd say to always just be open to learning. So I don't pretend to know everything. Like, I will literally call my girlfriend, like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this word means. And I don't feel inadequate because of it. And I feel like so many times, you have your own, I guess, like, inadequacies, and then there's like the world who cast these things on you. And so, why not? Why not just be open? Why not continue to take these courses and step out on faith and these different experiences and opportunities to better yourself and to provide a better experience for your clients? Okay. So a little bit all over the place answer, but better together. I'll leave you with.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I definitely like that collaboration idea, because a lot of the times when I say we, Black people, we look at other people that may be in a similar lane or something, it might be the same lane, and we look at it as it has to be competition. It doesn't have to be competition. Like, there's money out there for
everyone.
There's opportunities for everybody. Mm-hmm. You just have to know. You have to know your lane. You have to know, like, what you can and can't do, and it doesn't make sense to tear somebody else down, or try to compete for no reason.
Absolutely.
So, yep. Well, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot.
I appreciate the invite.
I appreciate you taking the time to come out and kick it with us full steam ahead. Unfortunately, the rest of the cast couldn't be here. Weekdays get busy, I guess. Mm-hmm. So thanks for talking with me. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to go ahead and shout out your Instagram?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram,
business info.
Pretty much all socials are Pepper and Mint Catering. Pepper like the spice, A&D, mint like the herb, and then catering. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google, pretty much all Pepper and Mint Catering.
Okay, cool. All right, and y'all know my Instagram is king_Santiago25. The podcast Instagram is full_steam_ahead. Our other social media, Twitter, Facebook, that will pop up at the bottom of the screen. So make sure you're looking. I can't remember off the top of my head because Twitter wouldn't let me be great with full steam ahead in the handle. But so pay attention, be on the lookout for that. Thank you again, Brianna, for joining. Y'all definitely check out Pepper and Mint. And she cooks good. I've had it before. I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely had like food for days, and I was enjoying it for days. So check her out, and thank you again for coming on to Full Steam Ahead.
I hope to see y'all soon.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Catch you later.